Michel Foucault, a French philosopher, said that the role of knowledge is to create order, as in to make sense of the information around us. Things are grouped into categories and associations, and this allows us to navigate around the world. And through history, different ways of organizing and knowing, which is called epistemes, have come. The 19th century witnessed the rise of the modern episteme. People began to classify and categorize more things, as in modern or traditional, culture or nature, science or mythology. And with the rise of exploration, more people began to desire to chart and explain the new world. Colonialism meant people wanted to learn about what had been conquered. They either wanted to manage the natives, as in to get more control over them, or to find resources, as in to boost their wealth.
Colonial knowledge machines as the measures of man. During the 18th and 19th centuries, the European travelers found no indigenous written sources in many places, and so they presumed an absence of science and philosophical learning. The European travelers think that they were more civilized than others because they have machines, and the others do not have any technologies during that time. This is because during that time, nature was still something that was seen to be powerful and threatening to humans, and so there was a very strong view that nature had to be tamed. Academia and colonialism. The 18th century saw a significant rise in academic societies willing to assist in the colonial endeavor. In the mid-19th century, the first geographical societies emerged in Europe. In 1830, the Royal Geographical Society was established in Britain. These academic societies concentrated upon the collection of academic information. However, it also had a close relationship with empire. This is because knowledge was the charter of domination. During that time, the military pacification was followed by academic and royal commissions to understand sources of resistance and counter-resistance. So, for them, knowledge is important to expand their territory. Besides that, they also use knowledge to produce giant labor force.
Knowing the native body. Europeans traveled around the globe while establishing the study of human, which is anthropology. Their concern is the physical anthropology, which they measured body parts as a scientific way to classify races. By the end of the 19th century, photography is used to assist these signs of racism. Thousands of images of natives were used to create racial archetypes. In the late 18th century, racial hierarchies were constructed with whites at the top and Jews and blacks in lower places. Whites were superior to other racial groups. It was claimed that black physical traits, dark skin, thick and rough hair, thick lips, showed inner cognitive defect. Based on the origin of species by means of natural selection, published in 1859, Darwin stated that some species would be more successful than others in adapting to local natural environmental conditions. Social Darwinists viewed the world as being split into winners and losers. The people who were able to adapt to common environmental circumstances were the winner. The losers would unable to feed and die or extinct Weak people were believed to be eliminated by superior races. Europeans also came out with binary logic as their enlightenment. European men believed that they were normal and others as unlike them. For example, the body of weak people took control over their mind, and women were regarded as being closely aligned to natural patterns due to their role as mothers through the cycle of menstruation and womanly problems such as hysteria and fainting. The working classes were believed to be lacking in intellect. They did not aim for higher than their passions. Children were viewed as not sufficiently developed. This is why European men believed all had to be controlled by the powers of male, such as elites, fathers, and imperialists.
Explorers are at the forefront in establishing colonies. They record, measure, and collect information about the new land and new people. These accounts play an important role in communicating information to Europe. Travelers' tales are popular due to the mix of excitement, romance, and exoticism. The tales constructed the world through heroism narratives, and the popularity of these travel accounts are more significant in the 19th century, as it was the most important way in which people learned about the world. The styles of this account were significant in two ways: the way the explorer looked at the world, and the structure of the narrative of the travels. Mary Louise Pratt said that travelers adopt the monarch of all eyes survey rhetoric. Explorers tended to look down upon new scenes to be described. Standing at high point implied power over the landscape and people. It also placed the explorer outside of what is being described and establishes his viewpoint as authoritative. The first-person account written in the explorer's journal ensured that he was at the center of the story, making him as the hero. Richard Phillips argued that this exploration was marked by the convergence of nationalism, masculinity, and the romance of far-off places. The narrative excludes women unless they represent ties to home, or prizes, or things to protect. The narrative of the heroic explorer was that they battled with the elements, the barbarians and such, before the oncoming forces of colonialism to domesticate these barbarians. The narrative reduced the stories to the image of an individual hero versus the wild, when actually this was not always the case, as explorers also bring assistance with them, and also native workers and laborers to carry their stuffs and help them in the jungle. Women exclusion from travelers' tales were not only from professional societies and formal expedition, but even the heroic tales are masculinist. Society view women to be better off at home, not discovering other places in the wild. People were interested in their books and talks because they were the first European women to set foot in a new place, and they viewed these women as people that were out of place. There was a lot of barriers to women when they wanted to travel. Women are excluded from scientific societies that funds the expedition, and they also do not have the independent means to travel. Women are viewed as homemakers, so they had to look after their parents. Traveling costs a lot of money, and therefore only rich women get to travel. These are the differences between male and female travelers. But are the lady travelers better than male travelers? We still need to be wary of accepting uncritically the account of female travel writers as subversive of Orientalism. The reason European women travelers are attracted to faraway places was because of the freedom it offered. They were repressed even in their own society, so traveling gave them power and independence. But they have power and independence in the other countries because of their race. They are one of the colonizer. They are white. For a woman to be able to travel, she had to be very rich because women are not funded by the government to travel. Therefore, even their accounts were also structured by their higher class position.
The world as exhibition. The knowledge about empire spread among the European population, not only through travel writing and travel stills. For example, the advertisers utilize image of empire to sell their products. Various popular cultural forms drew on images from around the world. Now, look at the picture. How do you think the image of empire had been utilized in the bear soap's advertisement? Other than that, the World's Fair and national exhibitions also provided important opportunities for Europeans to view the world that had been conquered by empire builders. These manifestations of nations tightened their economic, military, and cultural bond. The first World Expo was held in the Crystal Palace in Hyde Park, London, United Kingdom in 1851 under the title The Great Exhibition, and it was actually an idea of Prince Albert, the Queen Victoria's husband. These World's Fairs celebrated industry and the mission especially. Now remember that the science and machinery is important to define the progress and civilization? Yes. Their objective was to demonstrate the progress of different countries. It was a peaceful way to foster national competition and mutual benefit in terms of the development of global trade. They also displayed different cultures, products, peoples, and colonial possessions. It gave a valuable opportunity for amusement and self-improvement. These exhibitions included raw materials, technology, the dramatic episodes and performances of empire for the home population. The detailed streetscapes and landscapes of different parts of the world were constructed exactly for people to wander through, so that the visitors can learn about the newest parts of their nation's empire. And it was structured to inform, entertain, and improve their tastes and morals. Fractures in the representation. Now, on this topic, I'm going to tell you what are the flaws seen in the side statement in Orientalism about the Orient as being unitary and coherent. Do note that this was only from his point of view, where he focused upon the official representations of statecraft, academics, and high culture. On the other hand, the female travelers suggested that the image of the Orient was actually not really coherent or singular. According to them, other than gender and sexual, both class and national differences were also challenges to the singular representation of Orientalism. As we all know, the middle class people had a greater influence in education and governance compared to the working class people. Since there is a class distinction between those two classes, the middle class people somehow feared for not knowing those unknown native, in this case, the working class. One thing that they feared most was for the uneducated working class people being weak to political agitators, especially the communists. Therefore, it was important for them to educate the working classes, particularly in sexual morality, self-control, and self-improvement. They decided to introduce museums and place the statues of the worthy people in public spaces so that the working class people could aspire. They believe that exposure to objects of civilization and high art in museums would improve the working classes. Besides that, they also tried to educate the working class by using undocumented sources of culture, such as the music halls that were popular and contained humorous songs and jokes about the ruling classes, colonialism, the empire, and as well as nationalistic passions. Now, let's move on to another aspect, which is the nation. There were minor national groups insisting that they are discriminated against formally. For example, Scotland and Ireland, they have used the term internal colonialism to state their relations with England. Like I've mentioned before, the World's Fairs were clearly important to display the successes and achievements of each nation-state. But the Celtic fringe of Britain, like Ireland, was presented as ancient and rural, with cottages that made from straws, traditional dancing, and use of the Gaelic language that were not so different from the African village.